Welcome back to Just a Digital, where we talk about video games and the classics that inspire them. I'm Brett Clark.
And I'm Matt Keaton. Today, folks, we're discussing life outside of video games and the balance we face as gamers.
Yes, and be sure to stay tuned for our save point, where we talk about your comments and answer questions that you have written to us, all here on Just a Digital. So, Matt, how is your work week so far?
Pretty crazy. Long hours, good things going on, good vibes, just a lot of customer service stuff, and yeah, pretty good balance, I'd say.
Yeah. Now, as far as especially working so many hours, especially on weekends and stuff like that, I mean, how do you personally find time to balance video games inside of that hectic work week? And then also, you've got a wife. Obviously, she wants some attention. Doesn't necessarily need it, but how do you balance it all?
So married life, you find it's really not much of a chore. More, it's just like it's whatever you get out of it is whatever you're gonna put into it. So you just have to find time and make it work. And I'm lucky enough to have a gamer wife, and so we both balance it out pretty well. I'll come home, she'll be playing something, I'll step over to the computer, play something, or maybe hop on the couch and play some co-op with her, or maybe just pick up my Switch and play it while she's doing something else. And definitely share the time on the main television and just find something to play together that's more like conducive for you both interacting together.
Mm-hmm. Do you think is it harder now to play like a really long RPG versus back in the bachelor life of Mr. Keaton?
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's definitely more difficult to put that amount of time into it. And it's not necessarily that it's life gets in the way or work gets in the way. It's more just my tastes have changed. And there's really very few games nowadays that come out that really warrant that kind of time input. And so I'm kind of thankful for that in the same breath, because when I was younger, tons of games had so much potential and so much time for growth and output, and that you could just spend hours and hours and hours in your whole weekend doing something. And so now I'm kind of thankful that there's a lot of games that just don't hold my interest anymore. And there's just very few that I really go the distance on, so to speak, and put that quality time of, I kind of consider anything more quality and would be about, I'd say 40 hours or so for a main story. That would be a pretty good length of time for me to put into. And as far as like games that go outward of that, like 80 to 100 hours, that's where they really lose me now, because I feel like very disconnected and disjointed, working all day, coming home and only getting a couple hours to really sit down and get into something. It's really hard to get into that, especially in a story-driven game, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Do you think multiplayer games like Call of Duty and stuff like that make it easier for you to stay a gamer? Or do you think it's just the single player games that you're choosing to play, they don't do a very good job of captivating you and having you return?
I think it's a delicate balance between both. I think it's both, actually. So I think Call of Duty gives you an outlet to de-stress. And for me, I'm a de-stress gamer. I come home and I just kind of let everything melt away, and I'll just pick up a controller and start playing something. And so for me, Call of Duty, for most people, it makes them rage and makes them upset. But for me, it's a way to kind of just unwind and let what happens happen. And it's a game where it's not anything is really in your control, so to speak. And so it's a game where you can just kind of relax and just vibe and just play. And especially if you just take it casual and you don't take it too seriously. But for a game that takes it gives you a story and it gives you a purpose and something that you have to pay attention to progress, that can sometimes be challenging, because sometimes the games are just not as captivating as you would think. Games like Horizon Zero Dawn from last episode, those type of games with the quality and the effort put into it and the polish that it has really makes it enjoyable to go into it, and you want to just continue going through that. And when I beat it in 2017, I was working for Best Buy, and I had come down here to Texas. And so for me, I was able to put a lot of time into it, because I was in the beginning stages of a relationship with my now wife, Jennifer. And it was just kind of like, okay, well, I've got time while I'm living by myself and we're still dating. I've got plenty of time to beat it. And I think it depends on what kind of married life you have, and it depends honestly on just what your situation is. But I had more of a little bit of a responsibility as more of like a family man too, more than just my wife. And so that also adds into a factor of time consumption as well. And so I think for me, I went back a lot of the last 3 or 4 years of gaming and played, The Witcher 3, and I went in and put in like 1,000 man hours into that game. Games like Skyrim, I went back and revisited and touched and things of that nature. So for me, I've been spending the past few years kind of catching up on my ever growing backlog as a now married gamer. So
Yeah, and that's kind of one of the things that I wanted to talk about this week, as far as, like, we both work full-time jobs, and the issue is that, like, being on like a salary, sometimes your work keeps you a little later, and then also there's expectations that my job has, as far as, like, for the for to sum it up, I do AutoCAD drafting for my company, and so let's say that there's like a job later in the week that I need to do for a client. Well, if it's Friday night and it's due next week, I have to finish it up over the weekend, and so that takes time into, video games and other activities that I would normally do. And then on top of that, I'm still in school, so it's a fine balance between all of that. But yet I still find time to play an obscene amount of video games, uh, and keep on spending obscene amount of money on new video games. I feel all the time. So I think the the big thing that really made me look at it and go, wow, no matter how busy I feel I am, I'll always find time to like squeeze in a video game, was Bloodborne this week. I beat it.
mm,
Uh, I beat it in a week, and it wasn't because I was off work or anything like that. It was because for 3 days in a row, me and Ricky stayed up till 2, 3 in the morning. And that's ridiculous if you think about it. Like, I got to go to work and be to work by 8. Just, oh my gosh, it's crazy to think about. But the game was that good, technically, in my mind, or I just had that much dopamine going through my system, that I had to have it finished. And that really kind of was like, wow. I'm like, dude, like, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. You got to go to bed. This isn't. You're not in high school anymore. You got like actual job. You've got actual stuff you're obligated to do. You don't work at Best Buy anymore. It doesn't matter if you're tired. It does matter if you're tired, and you're putting something that, if it has like 1 inch of a tolerance off, you could kill somebody. Like that. There's importance in that. And one of the things that I've also really noticed is that, like, the backlog, like he said, my backlog grows every single month, with more and more games coming in from Humble Bundle and stuff like that. So I'm not spending any money on games that I would, like, drop $60 on a new game, but I have a yearly subscription, and every month they keep giving me free games, and so that backlog keeps growing, and it's a first world problem to have, but that backlog is just never ending. And my goal this year was to not buy new games that come out and try to grind out that backlog as long as I could. Kylie's trying to go the whole year without buying a new game. I don't know if I'll make it that far, but my mindset is save as much as I can right now, especially with like the pandemic and stuff like that. We've seen what happens, and I mean, I've been fortunate to have a job through the whole pandemic, and we've been financially fine, but at the same time, it's like, maybe it is good practice to not blow all my money, on PlayStation 5s and stuff like that, if I can ever get one. Like, I'm still a little bitter. But I mean, for you, Matt, I mean, you work quite a bit, then you have to commute. And I mean, where do you even find time to do the podcast editing? Because you've taken on a way bigger role on the podcast recently. Like, how do you do that? How do you take time away from like other entertainment to like focus on the podcast and stuff?
I think the term you're looking for is mastering your domain, mastering your life balance. And
Mm.
so it takes a required amount of discipline and decision making, because if anything that I've learned from people management for not quite several years now, but going on 5 years, is that you really have to just strive for being your best and using power phrases, power statements to help kind of drive you, that I will do this, we will succeed. And kind of going through management and kind of like learning how to lead and to manage people especially, is that you just have to set the best example. And it's made me as a man transcend my beliefs and my outlook on life and really just give me a better perspective of time management. And so honestly, I just compartmentalize my time. I work a varied schedule. Sometimes I'll work, the closing shift. Sometimes I'll be there the next day after just 8 or 9 hours gap of time, and so that dictates just discipline of I can't play games tonight. I'm on my way home and I know I've got to be there early after a late shift. I'm gonna spend time with my wife and possibly eat dinner, maybe not, see what happens, and then just sleep, get up for work the next day. Because I know that next day I'll be able to come home earlier if it's an early shift, and then I'll have games waiting for me when I come home. So I think it's just like you have to balance letting what you sometimes want to do just go, and focusing on what maybe you should be doing. And also, it helps when you have a great partner who understands the situation of timing and understands that you. And for years now, I really haven't had my own avenue to express my who I am on the inside, and video games has always been that way. And so for me, it's not extremely difficult. It's just learning how to manage your time better, and also kind of like funny thing, but writing things down really helps too. So kind of having like a daily objective task list, so to speak, work being the primary focus, and then you gotta go grocery shopping after, or you gotta slot out some time to spend time with your wife, and then maybe I'll do some games before bed. We'll see what happens. I primarily game now on my off days, and sometimes when I work early and I have enough time in the day, I'll do that. So again, it's just understanding that the games will be there and that you may just have to put off time for something else that's more important. So it's definitely a difficult thing to do, because you don't want to be selfish in a relationship. You don't want to not spend time with your significant other. You want to make time for them, and you also want to game. And when you can do both in the same time, that's when you really reap the benefits, in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's one of the things that I guess I don't even overlook, but I mean, when I was playing Bloodborne, for instance, I mean, a majority of the time I'm sitting right next to Kylie on the couch while she's playing Hollow Knight. So I think that's something that I take a little bit for, maybe not for granted, but it's something that if we're playing a cooperative game, obviously that's not time that I'm putting into a single player game, but the fact that we can both play our own single player experience, I think that that's kind of cool. And it's awesome. It's really something where, she can play a game, I can play a game, we both enjoy it. It's not horrible. We're both still in the same room, and we both kind of like, something happens in our game, like the other one reacts to it, and like kind of you get both ends of the story more or less. Uh, there was one time I was doing homework, and I made the really bad mistake to like try to finish up a test in the living room, and Kylie's just showing me everything under the moon about her game, and I'm like, yeah, cool. And then she's like, I'm sorry, I know you're trying to focus. I'm like, it's great. It's just a timed exam, and I got like 10 minutes left, but everything she just showed me. So sometimes it's fun that way as well. And I don't mind it, honestly. At the end of the day, I'd rather sit by her and play a game any day of the week. But I do think you're right that it is a lot of self control. And definitely, if you were to ask me like 4 or 5 years ago, I would not have the self control to do that. It was very tough to look at, like, I'm like, I'm off work. This is my free time, sort of thing. Like that's a great mindset to have, because once you leave work at work. But now that I've gotten to become a bit more of an adult, and my job requires it, I got to think of work outside of work sometimes, and that's not stressful. It's just more like, oh, I didn't get as far as I wanted to in this project this week, or oh, was that there's actually yesterday. Yes, we have a vendor who's in Mexico, and they had a Mexican holiday yesterday. I don't even remember what it is. I think it's like Independence Day or something like that. But I don't know. Don't if you know, don't hate on me. I'm sorry. I don't live in Mexico. Don't celebrate the holidays in Mexico. Uh, but anyways, like, by them being out of work, I couldn't get a like an AutoCAD part sent to me, so I couldn't then draft the piece. So I have this assembly that's missing 500 some screws, and so I'm sitting at my parents' house talking to them, and all of a sudden something about Mexico comes up, and I go, oh crap. I gotta put in 500 some screws tomorrow when I go to work, because I didn't get all those screws put in when I was assembling everything in the 3D modeler. So there's stuff like that where like work comes back to me, and it doesn't haunt me, but it's always got to be on the mind. You gotta always wonder how you're gonna pay for your next video game. If you don't have a job, you can't pay for your next video game unless you're trading in everything. But still, makes it a lot easier to to buy stuff when you've got a good job, and take pride in your work also at the same time. Like, I really enjoy doing what I do, so I'll never be upset with it. Sometimes it's stressful, but I think at the end of the day, I think every job has a little bit of stress, but if you enjoy it, you'll keep coming back.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know if you want to necessarily say what your job is, but I mean, like, you do manage a team, and you have people that work for you, and you work with people, and you do have to manage that. Do you feel like that skill that you're getting at work helps you in video games sometimes?
Yeah, absolutely, especially when it comes to resource management.
Yeah.
So no, since you said what, I'll be completely transparent. So during the year with COVID, before COVID struck, I was a customer engagement manager with PetSmart, and so with an unfortunate situation that happened directly prior to COVID, and I've been unemployed for the greater part of 2020, unfortunately, due to just the entire structuring of the way Texas is and the workforce and the way it hit everybody. And so I was fortunate enough to land back on my feet with the car rental agency Sixt, and it's a management position in which I do have a great deal of responsibility as far as everything you could think of. And so I do also bring my work home with me as well, and I'm pretty much on call to have to check in and check my phone constantly, even when I'm not at work. And it's not necessarily a requirement. I feel it just makes me personally a better player and role model and example setter. And so for me, whenever I leave and anybody needs anything, they call me, and they do directly, and they ask for help. And I like being in that role. It doesn't really bother me. But I do, for the most part, try to leave work at work and not think about stuff while
Yeah.
I'm at home. But when there's certain opportunities for improvement at work, and you're thinking about that outside of work, that's when things can kind of get tricky, when you're
Mm.
trying to push too hard to focus on one thing. And that's where the balancing act comes in. And I think, like you said, I think you've definitely transcended as a man, and from growing up and learning everything, but also you kind of didn't know this before, but all of this was going to eventually just come with time. And the only way you really learn is by failure, and that's the only true way path to success. Nobody just succeeds at one thing directly. It takes umpteen failures in order to teach you the correct path. And so this situation with this topic, there are failures where you've spent too much time. And me, in the past, I spent way too much focus on work. When I was with PetSmart, I was just night and day bringing work home with me, and I was in a unique situation where I would, I had a situation where I had a store leader who really gave me intro perspective into leaving your work at work and not taking it home because it could kill you and just consume you. And the person came very consumed with work and just was so stressed every day and just so like against the gun, against the wall. And I saw that person just kind of melt down from time to time, and I was always there to help no matter what. But I got an inside perspective before changing careers, as to what not to do, a great example of what not to do. And so that's kind of helped me as a person kind of learn to how to structure and how to better balance things. And that just comes with time, baby. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
You grow, you learn, you get older, your tolerances change, everything changes, and your gaming perspective changes too. And you're absolutely right. My work does help me manage my time better, but it also, I think, it makes me a better gamer as well, because I learn not only how better to manage my time, but I also learn to take more attention to detail. Now, in past as a gamer, I would always go and just push so hard at the story and leave all the side quest stuff to last. And some games you can't do that because it makes you restart, or it takes you off the path, and then it's boring. So I've learned to appreciate the little intricacies of video games, the graphics in the background, the little details in the environment, the things that make the world, what brings it together and makes it special. And I've taken a step back as a gamer and realized how to kind of try to put on a show when you're streaming, how to create content, and how to make it more interesting and entertaining for not only for people watching but for me too. And so what I've discovered I love is watching my wife play games, because being able to see someone else's perspective, and not only am I getting to balance it and spend time with her while we're gaming, but getting to watch her play, I'm learning new ways I never would have thought to tackle things too. So that's also a benefit that you can get as well by balancing it out and playing together.
Mm. Yeah, I'm just going to agree with you on that. I think for me, like the when I worked at Best Buy, I worked at Best Buy for a really long time, and it was just sales, and that eventually got me my job at I worked for a heat exchange company, like a heating solutions company. Like they made like plate and frames and like stuff like that. And it was really new to me, like this idea of being able to sell industrial equipment. But they liked what they saw at Best Buy and they recruited me. And then from there, I went on and kept on selling stuff there and got very basic knowledge. But I understood like it was a different demographic of what I was used to selling to before. Like I was excited about Best Buy products and then selling to like industrial people who at the end of the day care about like efficiency and price. It's a different demographic. Majority of the time they're older than you, they know more than you, so you can't go in acting like you know everything. uh, and so then from there I ended up getting let go, and I went back to Best Buy, and lo and behold, the job that I work at now, same exact situation, got recruited at Best Buy because I talked to the guy, and he said we can take that skill and we can use it, especially because when I asked him what he's using his laptop for, he said that he has a pump company, and I'm like, oh, you water solutions. I'm like, I worked with like plate and frame and stuff like that, and then we talked on that. And then I knew some of the brands he was talking about, and I told him some of the brands I worked with, and we went going from there, and the rest is history. But what what my jobs really taught me, if anything, is you shouldn't be closed minded. You should always be willing to try something different, even if it seems like something that's not you're not going to enjoy it. You know, uh, like video games, for instance. Like, oh, I don't like this genre. Bloodborne, prime example. I don't like Dark Souls or Darkborn, Soulsborne style games. Well, I actually tried it and I enjoyed it quite thoroughly. So I think in that regard, I have a very open mind to the media that I consume, the games that I consume, and just kind of I'm willing to give anything a chance at this point because, I never thought I'd be working in like industrial solutions, and here I am now making like sales and doing AutoCAD work for a water solutions company. So it's crazy to think about like how that one thing or that change in career path really affects how your overall mindset is. Because originally I wanted to be a Best Buy market trainer or a Samsung market trainer and just teach younger salesmen how to sell products and get excited about products. But in reality, no offense to anyone who works at Best Buy, a majority of the time the product sells itself. It's a commodity and people go in expecting to buy said commodity. If it's a phone, whatever, you just got to get them excited about the right product and give them guidance. But in something like an industrial sale, you've got other people who are competing for you to do relatively the same exact thing. And it's the difference between, not $10-$20 for like this phone case or whatever. We're talking like $60,000 for a government job or not, and people look at that and they're like, what? And it's like, it's crazy at the end of the day. Like, stuff that people don't realize as far as sales go. Like, there's anything you've ever bought, there is a market for it. There's someone who makes it, and there's a salesperson who is pushing hard to get that product on the shelf in front of you. You know, uh, I can't give away any of my customers, but I mean, like, when it comes to like food and stuff like that, especially food plants, if a food plant goes down for a day, they start freaking out because that's profit that they're losing. You know,
Yeah.
it's crazy to think about. But I think from video games, I've also learned, like in games like Civilization and stuff like that, where you've got to like manage your resources. I've come to appreciate more games like that, which is why I think I'm liking Eve Echoes a lot with mining. Um, I really appreciate like good metals and like quality metals and quality builds because that's what I deal with. So if someone comes up to me and they're like, we need stainless steel, it's like, okay, yeah, I love stainless steel. and it looks so nice. You know, it's really easy to clean. But then some people come to me and they like tell me that they want like Teflon seals and stuff like that, and I'm like, oh, gross, that you'll be replacing that thing like every year, like, and then there's stuff like that where it's like I know it's more expensive to go with like Kynar and something like that, but then it's like you want to cheap out and go this route. There's a lot of crazy things like that where I prefer quality, and so in video games where it's like you can mine for better materials but it takes longer, I do appreciate that too. To digress, I don't know, it's crazy. I don't know. I think with work in general, I mean, you and me, we both kind of, I mean, we both don't really complain about our jobs ever, and that's honest. We don't really complain about it. But I
Right.
think like I know people who really, really hate their jobs, and they come home and they just want to play games. And I feel like you need a nice mix. You need to have an excuse that you enjoy to leave the games. I feel like if you don't enjoy your job and you like, oh, I'd rather play a video game. I think that's normal for anybody, but I think at the same time you should enjoy your job enough that you're willing to leave the games. You're like, oh yeah, I should just whatever, I'll be back to it, because that's kind of where I'm at. I don't like getting up in the morning to go to work, but then once I'm at work, I enjoy it. It's the getting up out of bed where it's like really cold.
Yeah, and it gets harder the older you get.
No, don't tell me that. It's gonna get easier.
No,
You're supposed to tell me.
It's all based on your health and based on where you're at. And man, my life balance has been out of whack before I got married. I mean, I lost a ton of weight. I put a ton of it back on. I'm back and forth. I'm at my married weight now, which is not where I want to be, but that's another podcast. We'll talk about health and all the other crap another one. But so yeah, you're right. I mean, I've never really hated any job I've had.
I've hated managers.
But what's up?
I've hated managers though.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah,
well,
Best Buy.
Yeah.
Best Buy. We don't even get a start on that.
I mean, it's like a rule of thumb. Everybody should at least one point in their life work retail, so that they can kind of get a better understanding of what society is really like.
Exactly.
And I'm still in that framework, but I'm not in a physical store that's selling products to people physically. I'm more supervising and managing people to facilitate a hotel atmosphere for our clients who, through COVID, through the world, are still going out and traveling and wanting to rent a luxury vehicle and have a great experience. And so having to face COVID on the front lines, like day to day, with people traveling from all over the world. I mean, we get people from Mexico, people from Germany, people from all over the world come down to Houston and visit and travel. And so, you're facing people on the front lines. I actually wear 2 masks now at work just to kind of be safe, just because the main one that we have for our company logo is a little bit, fancier. So I wear that on the outside to kind of present our brand. Kind of why I have the orange Apple Watch too, because that's our company is all orange. And so our hotel environment is important to our clientele and to our whole, what we're about, world-class service. So I'm still in the customer service game. However, it's not, Black Friday opening the doors to people rushing in and knocking you over and stealing stuff off the shelves. It's more providing a service in a professional corporate environment, which is a fantastic change of pace for me. So yeah, I definitely cannot ever complain about my job for sure.
Yeah.
And so what I look forward to is getting up, getting to work, enjoying what I do, and then at the same time being able to come home and enjoy spending time with my wife and, watching. We'll eat dinner and put on some, Special Victims Unit or some TV show that we've watched in the past, or we'll watch an occasional movie. We're huge movie buffs, and that's our time together we enjoy. And for the most part, we separate as gamers. We go off and do our own things, but it's those quality moments that we get to spend coming back together to play stuff together and to do stuff together that really matter and really make memories, And so, one memory we had together was we went to Comic Con down here, I think in 2017 or 2018. And I would love to have it come back down again and go to it again. But they had all sorts of video game culture at this Comic Con down here. And at that time it was the huge Overwatch culture, which was like running rampant here. And the little diva statue, which mine broke. Sad, but my statue that I had, it cost me like $100 at the time, and it was like $200 to acquire it elsewhere. And so Overwatch being so popular, that's all you saw there. But they had other franchises, and then they had like who's the guy from the Power Rangers?
Tommy the Green Ranger.
Tommy. Yeah, he was there and like signing autographs, and of course now he's old, but everybody remembers him. And it's like that whole coming around of culture. And then you had people there playing. They had huge like epic sports rooms with like people playing Dungeons and Dragons, like tabletop games and stuff like that, and it was pretty cool. And so that was kind of like what led me to for me to know my wife's passion is also gaming, and kind of understand she's a gamer too, but she never really had the time. She's had all the consoles like me, she's had all the time in the world to do it, but for one reason or another, something always got in the way. So us as gamers have definitely evolved and changed, and I think going forward I'm giddy because some of my sports titles are coming over to the Xbox now. And I was able to, sorry, you talked about PlayStation 5. I was able to get my hands on an Xbox Series X, and man, got a review coming for that for sure, in the pipeline, in the works. But that console has like just like relit my faith in console gaming for its capabilities, and its power and performance has really made me feel comfortable getting back into console gaming and balancing that out too. Because now you're not only balancing work, life, wife, you're balancing work, wife, life, and oh, by the way, different platforms with different games and all this other. It's almost like a first world problem. Too many choices, you know.
I think that video games have come a long way as far as like crossplay, which helps a lot, because then I think no matter what you play on, you can play with your friends, which I really like. I like that idea. I think that they should make that more of a concern, in these games that are going to be multiplayer in the future. Like, let's make more cross-platform games, because at the end of the day, I don't care if my buddy plays on PlayStation or Xbox or if he plays on a Nintendo Switch. I'm not gonna be like, oh, bro, you play on a Switch? Yeah, get wrecked. Like, I'm not gonna be like that, But if I play on like a high-end gaming PC, it's because that's what I invest into gaming. If they invest a Switch into it, that's what they invest into it. And the experience might be different as far as like a gaming perspective, but the experience of enjoyment does not need to be any different. You know,
Exactly.
the ease of access, I think, should be there. And I really like how Call of Duty's going that route. I just wish more games were like that, because I know PUBG has crossplay, but it's only on the consoles, which I'll be honest, yeah, it makes sense, because if you played PC against an Xbox player, actually, no, there's no aim assist on it. That they'd get wrecked. They'd get wrecked. There's no aim assist on the controllers, so they would just get wrecked by a PC guy all day. That makes sense. But Rocket League and stuff like that, I think Rocket League, it's only crossplay with no, it's crossplay with everything, ain't it now? It used to be only PlayStation and PC, and then they opened it up to Switch and Xbox in the recent years.
You just have to have had it. You have to have not had the grandfathered original version of it when it first came out for console. Otherwise, it causes like a weird issue with when you, because they have the game on the Epic Store and Steam.
Oh, yeah.
And the Epic Store came after, so it's like there's this like funky weird thing. You have to have followed the chain of who you signed up for the game with, and then you can pick how you're going to play across the platforms. It took a while for all of us to get together to play it.
Yeah.
And I know that the going forward with cross platforming being a big thing, Call of Duty really set the standard when not that they were the first, but they were the first huge game of the big games to fall in line. And actually I discovered it by happenstance. I played it originally, Modern Warfare 2019, on console, and I had gotten it for the PlayStation, and then I realized I kind of made a mistake. I flipped it for the Xbox version, so I played it on Xbox primarily for a while. And then this past year, 2020, being able to build a gaming PC, I then realized, holy crap, they have crossplay. It brought all of my progress from the console to the server side, and cloud save based, basically, is what it boils down to. And everything, my skins, my achievements, everything, like it, all my tallies of records and multiplayer, everything transferred over. And as soon as I started up the PC, I was popping achievements that I had earned on the Xbox, and then going forward again with Cold War, playing that on the Xbox. Now that I've been playing it on PC, I jumped into a match and I had achievement after achievement pop, and all this stuff that I had done on PC had transferred back over to the new game, and I was pretty impressed by that. And then I kind of discovered on top of that that not only were they the innovators of that for the mainstream multiplayer platforms, but now Ubisoft has done that with all of their titles going forward with cloud-based saves. So games like Valhalla, I played on PlayStation 4 Pro, and then I flipped it with my new Series X, and I booted it up just expecting to start over, only to find the 10-hour campaign I played on PlayStation was available on the server as if I had played it on Xbox. And there were some kinks with it because it didn't take into account my progress on the like trophies achievements, and my world was still kind of like fogged over. However, it put me in that 10-hour time frame into the story in which I was on PlayStation. So they definitely have kinks to work out, but I also saw Ubisoft and has done that with other games going forward with cross-platform, as well as the Hitman franchise now has a cloud-based server on the Switch, so you can now play Hitman on the Switch portable and just enjoy it in that form too, and your saves all cross to whatever platform you play it on. So I really think what the goal should be for them, if it's not already, is in the future to have you buy the game on one platform and be able to take it to other platforms and play it and enjoy it. And I think that is where the value in the marketability is going to be. The first developer for the AAA games, or the high end games, who says, okay, if you buy it on one, you can take it with you on every platform. And I know that probably would be difficult because of restrictions of different services and PlayStation, Xbox, whatnot. But that would be really amazing for me to see someone step up and say, hey, you know, you buy it on one, you're going to have it for everything.
Yeah.
Now, I know they do that for the cross-gen bundles going forward. But the happiest news, I'm going to nerd out for 2 seconds and I'll pass it back to you. My happiest news I saw today was that MLB The Show is finally, because of Major League Baseball forcing their hand, Sony has finally relinquished the exclusive rights to it. And MLB The Show 21 this year is coming out on the Xbox as well, which is like a huge victory for baseball fans. And so me now having the Xbox side of gaming, I'm really stoked for that and excited for that. And they are also going to have cross-platform multiplayer with it and like saves and all that stuff. So whatever console you have it on, the old gen, the new gen, on both sides of it, you can play and intertwine and do whatever you want to from any type of the platform that you choose to. And then they also have a port coming later in the year for the Switch as well, which is exciting. So
that's pretty cool.
I am just so stoked for that because I did work for Sony and I did roster editing and working for them in the back end, and it was really fun, and my time with it was like really enjoyable until I kind of felt a little betrayed and got used. But it's something I'm looking forward to picking up again and being able to share that with people for sure, if they want to see it. And if they kind of want to see my baseball nerd side of it, I'm more than happy to share that because it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But that was the exciting news I just wanted to share with everybody, just to kind of get that out the way.
Oh, no problem with that. With cross-platform, I mean, one of the big ones that I think of is Fortnite. As much as I hate to say it, I think Fortnite did some really good things for gaming. It mainstreamed a lot of people before who weren't really big gamers, and it made them gamers. My dad, for instance, he loves Fortnite, and I don't ever fault him for that because I get it; it's an addictive game, and I try so hard to give him a different game to get off of it. But I mean, recently they just allowed Xbox and PlayStation. You don't need a membership in order to play free-to-play games on Xbox, I saw. And I think that's PlayStation as well now. But I think that when you look at cross-platform games, if you can get it to be as good as Fortnite, then I think that's the golden standard, And I think Fortnite, the game itself, yeah, it's not the same as it used to be, but you had like mobile apps and stuff like that. And I kind of wish that that's where games, or I hope games will go. I want to be able to play Mutant Year Zero or something on my PC and then play it on my phone, and with like Steam Link and stuff like that I can. But there's a difference between streaming a game and actually playing the game and like on mobile platforms. Because when you're streaming the game, that eats your data. If I could somehow just like have a cross save onto my phone, I mean they're getting strong enough that you could play probably low res graphics, like 30 FPS on some games. That'd be kind of cool. I'd kind of dig that. And for someone who like me, like we've talked about in this episode, how do you balance between that time? Your phone's always on you. You could be waiting at the DMV or something. You could be at I guess in-laws, and it's kind of slow or boring or something. I don't know. I haven't played a single video game yet at Kylie's parents' house, really, except for like when I was spending the night. So I will say that I've never pulled out a video game and played on my phone like that. Might have checked to see what the stocks were like on some minerals in Eve Online, but that's about it. But anyways, I mean, like in that sense, like you've only got so much a lot of time. I mean, like if you had the ability to play whatever game you were on your phone, and your PC was just on at home, that'd be nice.
Yeah, for sure.
I'd really enjoy that. I think that with mobile gaming, we really didn't talk about it too much, and I think this is something we should talk about in a future podcast. Mobile gaming has become so popular, especially in places like Asia, because everyone has a phone, and they're getting really powerful. So why should I not be able to play, Apex Legends, League of Legends, PUBG, or whatever on my phone, and then have the same experience on my PC, just with better graphics? That would be fun. That I would dig that all day. And it's getting to the point where, I bought a big note, just for one. I love the notes, but I mean, just imagine like just playing a game on this thing. By the way, look, it's Aloy, so. But
it's a nice wallpaper.
Yeah,
good choice.
yeah, I did not hand draw it. I don't even know where I got it. I just found it.
Talking about streaming, so like the one thing that works for me is when I'm playing something and I'm live streaming it. My wife is able to, across the apartment, pull out her phone, and our internet's more than capable of handling it, which is great. She's able to watch what I'm doing at the same time, so it's not like she's away from me and we're not a part of it. And that's, I think, what makes it special too, is that whenever you're doing something away from each other, you can still be tuned in. And she does. She enjoys. She's got her tablet up and she's on her iPad, and she's got her phone over here, and either one or the other is got the stream going, and she's just watching and taking it all in as I'm playing it and seeing what I'm doing, and that she enjoys that. And I know Tim as well really enjoys. A good friend of mine, he does the same thing. He's Twitch streamer. He loves to play games. He streams it, and he primarily does that so that him and his wife can kind of connect, and she can kind of watch what he's doing and be involved in it as well. And so I think that definitely is where trending forward, I'm looking forward to, is being able to share that with her, and then at the same time, having someone who's invested in what I'm doing, and proof editing and looking and checking and seeing what it's like. It makes it more interesting, and it gives you something to talk about at home, beside and another commonality to have. And that's what I enjoy of it the most, is streaming. It's just being able to share it, and with anybody really. I mean, that's kind of what the goal is for us, is to just share with our friends and family, and have everyone kind of just tune in and see what we're up to. And going forward, I like to do a lot more things just other than video games, but definitely want to get better and get awesome at one task before thinking of doing other crazy live streams, for sure. But no dance offs here in the future here, at least not on this end.
Maybe some Dance Dance Revolution or something. That'd be kind of fun.
That I would do just for laughs.
There's a thing over in Asia. It's like where instead of being like a mat where it's got the plus and you hit like the cross, when you're stepping, it's got like a straight up and side to side. Like that's the symbol it shows you, and it like puts it on this grid. And if it's straight up, that's how your foot has to land. And if it's sideways, you have to like step sideways. So like that's literally the whole game. And like people are just like shuffling back and forth across this like giant screen.
Wow.
It's like crazy, and it records you. And then
that's crazy.
Yeah. Asians, man, I don't know what it is. They do some weird stuff. Just saying.
That would end up here with a rolled swollen ankle and fractured something around.
Yeah, they chose their demographic very well there. I don't really think with America, we're the land of hot dogs, and mustard. So like that would not survive one state fair. You know, that's it. That's done. Your kettle corn's in
Yeah.
that thing, and it's not getting out.
You got a beer in one hand, brat in the
Yeah.
other, and you're doing the Texas two step to some K-pop song, and then your food's all over the floor, and yeah, I can already see that
Yep,
happening.
I can see that happening, especially in like Wisconsin, man, dude. Those beer brats, they just get them every time. But anyways, Matt, I think on that note, I think it's time for the save point.
You want me to take this one?
Yeah, I think you can take this one if you really want to.
All right, so
kind of a long one. I'm looking at it. It's kind of long.
Yeah. So yeah, this is a two-parter. Again, from Sir Solna. Appreciate you. Appreciate your comments and your participation in our podcast world here. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate it, buddy.
So he states, first part, the bot I would want to see is a giant plant monster with like solar panels for leaves, large like energy storage trunk to it, and give it a laser on its head, 4 legs, and have it roam and get empowered during the bright days and make it weaken during the nighttime. So that's pertaining to his interpretation of what he'd want to see in the Horizon Zero Dawn sequel. That's pretty epic imagination. I like that. That's that
Put some vines on that thing. Make like a, what is it called? Piranha plant. Yeah, make like a piranha plant.
That's exactly what I was thinking of, but just like as tall as a building.
Yeah. Oh, dude, if it was tall as a building, that'd be it. Dude, I think you could pull it off. Maybe not a plant, but like a tree, and then it's got the giant roots. Oh, we might
I think
be
it's
onto
been
something
done
there.
before, but it'd reach out and like smack you with its branches and
Yep. The tree of life. It's like infinitely big.
and all of its little saplings fall out, and you have to kind of take them on too.
Okay,
Something
when
like
you said
that.
saplings, it reminds me of Cuphead when these little jelly bean guys with swords would just run across the bottom of the screen and would just like you're fighting off like 6 different things, and all of a sudden this jelly bean with a sword just sticks it right up your butt, and you're just like, where did he come from? And it's still a jelly bean guy going, whoa. He's so tiny, but his sword's like this big. It's like, what the heck, dude? Like,
Yeah,
how did I not
have
see that? But
no patience for that game
Yeah.
either. All right, so his second comment is great podcast, guys. Really improving on your editing on this video. I can't say I've ever played Horizon Zero Dawn, but after watching this, I want to play it. Also, if you guys are looking for another possible game to look into, I'd suggest looking into the Tales games. Tales and Symphonia was absolutely amazing as a story that you go through a range of emotion and a gripping story, as well as the newer versions of game Tales of Xillia and Xillia 2 were great stories but didn't really change the gameplay or style of the game, but the writers for those games are by far some of my favorite. Appreciate you again for your comments and your participation. You want to take that one there? That's definitely out of my league.
yeah, so I've played quite a few JRPGs, and I played Tales of Symphonia, and there's I'm trying to think of the other one. I think it was with a V or something like that. But I played it really long ago.
Vesperia?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not quite sure. But then they remastered it, and I bought the remastered version of it, not realizing that it literally is just like a graphical remaster, not like a rework. And I was kind of disappointed. But one of the things I will say with the Tales games is that they make you care about characters quite a bit. Like, you know, like there's something about JRPGs that hit it a little differently than like, you know, Western RPGs. The Witcher, like, yeah, I feel for Ciri and Triss, even though Triss is like a stank, you know, and trying to steal, you know, Geralt from Yennefer, you know. I picked Triss, but apparently Kylie keeps telling me that like Triss is just a dirty, you know what, for trying to get in there, you know. And I was just heartbroken. I'm just like, what? She would never do that. And then like she knew that he lost his memory, and she was still trying to slide. And I'm like, oh, that is pretty dirty. But still pictures. You know, I didn't know. I lost my memory because I didn't play the second game. So whatever. But I mean, it's one of those things where like, you know, in Western RPGs, Skyrim, do I really care about anyone other than, you know, Harold Stormcloak? You know, I don't really care about anybody else in that game. Oh, look at that! I dropped an F-bomb.
Well, there goes another edit.
Whatever. But I mean, like honestly, in Skyrim, who do you care about? Nobody in that game. You know, I mean,
Well, I wouldn't say no, buddy. You
Lydia.
care you care about the little people that you can help,
Yeah,
because if you really get into the story, they can kind of grow on you and, oh, I feel
yeah,
bad. So now I'm gonna go destroy these people who hurt you, kind of
yeah.
thing. But as far as like fantastical characters, yeah, no, they could just copy and paste from any other game and wouldn't have
Lydia's
even
probably the only
noticed,
character I
honestly.
cared about in that game when she died, and I couldn't resurrect her. But other than that,
Yeah,
I mean, like, yeah, JRPGs, man. Persona 5, great cast. Persona 4, great cast. Tales, great cast. Xenoblades, oh my goodness, that's a little bit of a fan service game, but it's still pretty good. But I feel like JRPGs versus Western RPGs, there's something that appeals to both sides. JRPGs is very turn-based strategy, story, characters. It's kind of slower, whereas a Western RPG is more action-packed. Story's still there. Don't get me wrong, characters still there, but
hmm
it's not as about the numbers as, let's say, Final Fantasy. You know, I do feel like they're they're fans of both. But yeah, I 100% agree with him that it's a game that it's worth checking out. It's a series that's worth checking out. Now, is it worth checking that out over Final Fantasy VII? No, I feel like you should beat Final Fantasy VII first. I know you're working on that,
yeah,
but
it's taking a while, but it's in the works.
yeah, it's a long game, but it's worth it. I think it's worth it at the end, 100%. But thank you so much for that comment, or for those comments per se, uh, and hopefully we can entertain you again with another episode. If you guys want to have your comments read or your questions answered, feel free to reach out to us at Dis2Digital with the hashtag Dis2Digital on Twitter or on our Instagram, or you can reach out to us on Facebook or on our Discord and just simply talk to us there. But yeah, I mean that's pretty much the save point for the day. I will agree with him though. The editing last week's episode, I did like it. I did like it a lot. I do like
Appreciate
the
that.
thumbnail a lot too. I did like that thumbnail. I think we should do that again. I'm gonna leave you in charge of it because you've been doing a really good job with it. It only gets better each and every week. So, round of applause for Matt. The yay. That's the fan in the crowd. The one
I'll do
fan in
the.
the crowd clapping. You know. The yeah.
When I
Anyways,
do edit, just so you know, I do edit with my pinky out.
oh,
Just
you do
for
edit with your pinky out. You're so fancy.
No, it's been a blast, man. Been able to take it over earlier in the series and kind of take that pressure off of you, and been able to like learn all this new stuff has been tremendous. So it's a lot of fun. I'm still noob level, have so much to learn, but I'm really enjoying it as we go and grow. And I think one day we'll look back and be like, wow, where did we start from?
Yeah. And I gotta admit, like, you taking on that role and that responsibility, you're learning a lot of skills, like you said. But I think also for me, it allows me to do other things, especially really early on when we were starting, getting a lot of the stuff set up, getting our website stuff like that set up. And then eventually, I knew this was gonna happen, which is why I really wanted to get you into it. Work and school, like, picked up, and so, you
Yeah.
know, and now you've got a job that's quite demanding. So thankfully, we've gotten you trained enough where you're not editing for 4 hours at a time. It's
No,
very
only when I
productive.
have gas, but y'all don't hear it, so. Just
Yeah, he edits them all out. The anywho, sponsored by Tum Tums.
Sponsored by Tums.
Dude, the there is an old Tum Tums commercial. Getting off track here. Where it's like that heartburn indigestion song, and we had
Yeah.
this girl in elementary school, Emily, who's the doctor, by the way. Her dad was a doctor, and I knew in elementary school she was gonna become a doctor too. She's a doctor, so really can't make fun of her. But she would sing it all the time, and it got to the point where I had no idea what she was talking about, you know. And then one day I see it on TV just randomly, and I go, "That's the song. That's what she's singing all the time." I'm like, what? Why is that stuck in her head? And I got to admit, I mean, I have now that's what I call music 23 or whatever stuck in my head from like 2003, or Kids Bop 7 stuck in my head. Those advertisements, dude. If there was a contest to recite verbatim commercials, I would win it. I can
You
guarantee
think
I
so?
would win it. You know, I don't. It's so stupid. I there's the Pringles commercial where he's like, so hungry, must have. Nope. He's like, I'll do your homework for a month, for a year. and then it's like the kid spinning this ball on his finger. He's like, nice try. He's trying to like give away his Pringles to like whoever can convince him. But like that commercial's just it's been in my head for like what I don't know 15 years now. You think that I could use that brain space on more important things?
Yeah.
Is there
Well,
a commercial that you have stuck in your head from your childhood?
oh man, I think the growing up the Chef Boyardee commercials
Boy, this stuff is good.
like just stuck with me. And then when they had Mankind from the WWF and he's got like his mask on and he's sitting by a tree and he's like sitting up against a tree all like bloated and he's got like Chef Boyardee stuff hanging from his mouth and like ravioli and
Oh,
cans everywhere and feed the need, you know.
oh god.
Uh, but yeah, man, we could do a whole retro thing on commercials from games and stuff from our childhood. That'd be a blast for sure.
You know,
But
if the whole episode is about managing our time, you know,
mhm.
and I think if I could have managed my brain a little better and not remembered that stuff growing up, I would be a genius right now. If I could just remember like the periodic table, you know how much that would help me? Like, you know,
Yeah, I mean, we
stuff
fill
like
our head with so much crap when we're younger, and then it's like you just want to reach in and take it out and make room for new things, and it's you eventually do with time, but
yeah.
yeah, we have so much crap from our childhood stored up there. It's kind of funny and it's awesome when it comes back to us too. We're like, where did I remember this from? Oh yeah,
Yeah.
way back, you know. So
Matt, did you ever have a bullseye ball?
bullseye ball.
Yeah.
What's
Bullseye ball. It's oh my gosh. Uh it's so bad. You know, there's like I was telling you, like there are commercials that are in my head all the time. Uh it's like quicker the clock is ticking, bullseye ball. And I'm like, oh my gosh, get out of my head. Just and they play constantly. It's like schizophrenia, but with like 90s commercials, you know?
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
That Hungry Hungry Hippos stuck in my head.
Oh yeah, yeah. You keep that's classic. The kids smashing on the plastic
Mm.
plunger that hits the hippo and makes him eat the balls.
It's fun getting in trouble, you know? Or I hated the sorry. And the worst part about sorry
Yeah,
is that I didn't remember the commercial except for the
that
kid going sorry, and
that
I
was so
knew if
annoying.
that kid ever did that to me, I would have just socked him in the face. It was like a little like blonde Home Alone looking kid, you
Mm.
know, with like buck teeth. And he's like sorry, and I've been like, yeah, you're about to eat this fist. You're gonna be sorry about that, kid.
I'm glad you kept it PG. I
Yeah.
don't have to edit anymore.
No, but there's
I'm
that.
just kidding.
Then there's the Peanuts commercial where it's like the Snoopy like sniffs in like Lucy's root beer, and then there's this kid who at the very end of the commercial they're like they're for me, and it's like hey maybe this is the start of a trend, but then at the very end of that stupid commercial the kid goes I like it more than you, and every time I don't know what it was, but that kid triggered me. That kid triggered me to my soul, and I was probably like 6 or 7, going I'm gonna mess this kid up. like, like I wasn't a violent kid, but like there was just something about those like stuck up little brats. You know, I don't know who in the marketing thought, oh, those kids are cute. Those kids were annoying. You know,
Yeah.
but
So for me, so were the kids in the sorry kids or something to the tune. What was it? The tricks commercials?
oh, sorry,
Tricks are
kids,
for
tricks are for
kids.
kids.
It's something like that, you
Yeah,
know. And then it's like the parents are trying to eat the cereal, and then like the rabbit comes and takes it away, and it's for the kids, and it's like, it just kind of always stuck with me. It irritated me. I know we're kind of off topic here. We've kind of gone way to the
yeah.
left and to the right here, but one last question for you to wrap up here.
Mhm.
So for me, I've always kind of wondered this because you're more of a. It feels like more of a you're feeling the temperature of what game you're going to play.
Mhm.
How do you, with work, life balance, girlfriend balance, how do you juggle it all? And how do you pick a game? Because you're a very random gamer. You go from one to the next and you kind of rotate them around evenly, it seems. How do you just go about starting a game or switching to another game mid through? And how does that work for you?
Well, it depends on the game. So, like for instance, something with Bloodborne, I had apparently beaten the first two bosses, or yeah, the first two bosses in the game, and then came back, had no idea how to play it, so I started over and beat the game within a week. Uh, and sometimes that's what you have to do. because you start a game and you're like, not really feeling it, or I don't understand it. Let me do some other games to better understand or better have fun in this current moment, and then come back at it when I'm better suited for it. Um, and that happens to me quite a bit. Like right now in Fire Emblem, I'm in a new game. Uh, there's like DLC, and there's a super hard part in it. And the only reason I'm not doing it is because I know I could do it if I grinded really hard, like and like really tried. But I just don't want to do that. I don't want to deal with that. So one day I'll go back, I'll beat it first try, and then I'll just blow through the rest of that DLC. It just always seems to be the case with me uh, in that regard, where I leave a game and I come back, and then, me not having played it for so long, I remember the fundamentals really well, or I remember like the cheese mechanics in it that are really cheesy, and then I'm able to get past it. Um, but really, what it comes down to is if I'm feeling a game, or if I'm feeling like a new game drop some different content, I'll play it just to like try it out. But when it comes to like first person shooters, they're all the same in my mind. They all function the same. I click and I pull the trigger. Whereas like something like Cyberpunk, it's a first person shooter with like RPG elements. It's kind of like a Borderlands, but still at the end of the day, fundamentally, it's still a shooter. I can come back at any time. I'm playing Mutant Year Zero right now, and that is a really hard like XCOM sort of game, you know. And for me, I got quite far in it. I got maybe 4 or 5 chapters into the game, and I had to start over in order to relearn fundamentals and replay it. And now I'm doing pretty decent at it, and I'm understanding the game so much more, because sometimes when you play a game the first time, the tutorial missions that they teach you in the beginning, you don't grasp everything because sometimes it's too much, especially how complex some of these games are.
Mm-hmm.
And playing it a second time, already understanding, how to use the skill, how to, use the skill from just a basic level to advanced level. Uh, and then coming back and going, hey, here's this thing, and here's this thing you had no idea that you could do this entire time in the game, and you're like, oh, whoa, totally was neglecting this. And that's something where for me that works really well. Is sometimes you take a break from a game to come back to it, but you have to know that you have to come back to it at some point. So don't leave yourself with like 2 HP on a save. You want to set yourself up for success coming back, or start over. What about you?
Oh man, for me it's kind of the opposite. So to be honest, I have difficulty trying to stick with a game and finish it, and it's not like procrastination or oh, a game's too hard, I don't want to finish it, or it's too good, I don't want to finish it. I don't want to reach the end and be left with I didn't finish it all. I like to trophy hunt sometimes out of the blue, and I'll get a kick where, man, I want to go back and get this hard to beat trophy so I can finish this up and get a platinum trophy. Whoopee, maybe 15 years ago that was important, but now it's just like I just go by what I'm feeling like, and more like the genre based what I'm into. So, and it kind of is dictated by my environment. So like if you come home from work and it's a chill environment and it's really quiet, if I'm gonna play something that's gonna be intrusive in the environment and like hard on the ears, I'll put headphones on. And if it's mellow and it's quiet and I don't want headphones, I'll play something soft and gentle like Animal Crossing or something on the Switch, just relaxing. So I think for me it's kind of like, I don't know, I need to get back on the grind more, like you have been, and take your example and finish games and then be able to definitely talk about them. And that's why it worked out really well last episode for us, because you had just freshly beaten it and I had beaten it twice previously. So for me, I really want to have you both experience things I've finished, but also I'm making a conscious effort to beat games that you have beaten, that you've recommended. And that's why I'm plugging away at Final Fantasy VII. And I'm definitely going to step up and beat Bloodborne, because that game just, man, I raged so many times at that game. But back when I played it a few years ago, I didn't understand the Dark Souls universe and the go back to the checkpoint whole mentality. And then the varying enemies changing and spawning, and kind of like everything resets in a way, but then it's also different. I didn't understand the complexity of those mechanics back a few years back. Now, because I've broadened my horizons with video games in general, especially, I've learned the mechanics of it, and it's actually more appealing to me, not just because you've beaten it, but because of the fact that, like you said, you're leading me by example by saying, hey, I'm open to all sorts of games, and I want to play something intentionally that I don't like, and to see if I can change my opinion about it. And so Bloodborne to me was like this game that was ever popular amongst like our Best Buy crew, and everyone's like, "Oh man, you got to beat this," and everyone was proud when someone else beat it. And it's like I was like, whatever, it's Bloodborne. But now it's like, oh, it's this difficult game that's difficult to play, and you feel accomplished after beating it. And that's I have that, and I have Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice. That game I am going to beat because I have unfinished business with those bosses in that game for sure. That were frustrating, and so yeah, that's kind of how I approach things. I get like this feeling like I'll be checking out, YouTube videos, and I'll come across the YouTube video of somebody. And YouTube is a big influence for me as well. It's a source for me to find new things to do, and not only like using YouTube for like how to do basic everyday things as a tutorial to teach yourself, like for editing. You forwarded me a great link, and I'm going to study that and learn how to do some more editing. But also with gaming, I'll be watching YouTube videos, and I'll see a popular streamer play something that I've already had in my backlog for a long time, and I'll get that in my head. Oh, I should play this and try it. And so that's what happens with me. I'm kind of like just how do I feel at the time, and I can change on a dime. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not good for finishing a game, obviously. So I'm definitely in this mode now where I've got to finish things to be able to speak to them, and then obviously enjoy them enough at the same time. And that's kind of the challenge when you're creating content. You're trying to do too much at once. You have to take a step back and realize that you need to enjoy it too. And you've definitely helped teach me that as well. And that's what makes this partnership work so well, is that we both come from different sides of the gaming universe and life as well. And it all just it works as a cohesive unit if you just step back out of your own head and realize you need to maybe approach things from a different perspective to see the different side of it. And so that really helps me, not only in everyday life but in the gaming world too, is being able to try new things and give everything a chance. And I think the only thing yet I have to try that's big mainstream is Among Us. I haven't played that yet, and it's like ever popular everywhere. I don't know that I want to.
We played
but
it at work
it's
once.
just you what?
We played it at work once. It was supposed to do like a team building exercise. It just taught me that I can't trust Paul. I can't trust my senior engineer. He just always stabbed me in the back. I'm like, oh come on, dude. he was just always the imposter. He's like, oh.
Well, that's the risk you run too. Is that if you go off of popularity, you're not always going to enjoy it. But if you see something that speaks to you personally, and you feel like you want to experience it, then go for it. But don't try to follow in everyone else's footsteps, because everyone else is doing the same thing. There's 50, and like when I'm a YouTube consumer, if there's 50 videos of one thing, I'm going to find the little guy and get his perspective, because his perspective is probably going to be more genuine and down to earth than like my opinion of something would be. And so that's what I'm going to go for. And so that's why with me, I'm thinking outside the box on content. Like, what can we create that's different? What can we do that's different? And we need y'all definitely support on that front to give us feedback and say, hey, try this and try that. And that's how we'll grow going forward as well, for sure.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I think the other thing is when I've been wanting to do this for a while. I mean, being in college, like my writing skills are being used when I have to write essays and stuff like that. And I think in recent years I've gotten better at writing. I'm English is not my strongest suit, as far as my abilities to public speak compared to my ability to put it on paper. They're not even close, So when I look at the potential to write a review or something like that and post it to the site, if people were interested, there's a really different perspective when you play a game and now you have to explain to people why it's a good game, and that's kind of where I'm at with Bloodborne, is where I've started typing a little bit and I've really looked into it. I'm like, what was it about the game that was good? And I'm like, oh, well, there's this, there's the mechanics, there's this. And then it's like, okay, well, what's the story about? And I go, I don't even know what the story is about in that game. Like, I didn't. The thing was, I played the game. The story, like I never grasped the story at all. You know, and but yet the game's good. You know, but does the gameplay make up for the lack of story? Does the story make up for the lack of gameplay? That's kind of where, as someone writing the review, it puts me in a tough predicament because now people are going to look at that and go, he doesn't, there's no story, and I'm like, well, the game was good enough without a story. It was fun.
Yeah.
So I think that's something where, as a gamer, as a content creator, and this is why one of the reasons I really stopped streaming was because I was not having fun playing a first-person shooter every single day. And then when I really had fun playing like a single-player game or playing a game with Kylie, I wasn't streaming, and that was way more fun. And that's kind of where I've been. I don't mind playing first-person shooters with my friends, but the fact of the matter is that when I'm playing a first-person shooter and I'm this close to the monitor, able to see a guy around a rock and headshot him, I'm not having 12 people watch me do this. Look at a screen that close. I can do it in the comfort of my own home without people knowing. Kind of. I mean, we say that we enjoy creating content, and then we enjoy not creating content at the same time. So it's kind of hypocritical, but
no, it is, but it's more of it speaks more to the delicate balance that our episode is all about, balancing life, work, and fun. And kudos to the streamers who can do it. Kudos to those people who just have fun and naturally just flow, because it's something that's definitely challenging. For us streaming like no one's there, you have a great following on Twitch, but again, you're only streaming to a select few people for a specific reason, to enjoy having your friends watch you play. And so you're not broadcasting to a nationwide audience where you're having to do things that people are requesting. Now, there's interacting and having fun, and then there's just straight gaming and making your own experiences. And I think a lot of them may have fun in that spotlight and putting on a show, but at the end of the day, what are they getting out of the entertainment value of the game? And you don't get that while you're live. You don't get that while you're laser focused on something else. If you can just sit back, there's something about sitting back at home on your 4K TV, HDR settings on, and just popping on a game and playing it in game mode on the TV, so it's really just crisp and smooth transitions. And there's something about that you just don't get on a PC while you've got lights and background and all this stuff going on, and you're trying to share that with the world. It's not the same experience, and it's kind of the duality is, do you stream it? Do you game it? Do you play it for yourself? Do you play it for an audience? And I've gotten some advice from Sir Solma, and he's kind of told me, hey, play what you're going to play and leave that outside, and stream what you want to, and just pretty much stream whatever you're playing if that's how you want to roll. Like, it's totally up to you, and it's your choice. And I think for you, like, write a review, man. I'll we'll look at it together and throw it out there, and between our IQs, I'm pretty sure we'll reach somewhere between potato and
tomato
and potato and Einstein. We'll get somewhere.
Okay, better than what I said.
But nah, we'll work on it together. And that's what makes this great, is that there's sky's the limit, and you don't have to get somewhere in a hurry. And what the people that fail are the people that try to get there too far, and they get there, but then they fall fast, and because of the drama getting there in the first place. So it's best to just take your baby steps and learn as you grow, and whatever happens.
Yeah. I got one last question for you, Matt, before we close up the podcast here. What was the last game you got emotional over? Like, you physically got emotional, like you cried. If that's ever happened to you.
Yeah, Last of Us Part 2.
Okay. Now, if you were streaming that, do you think you would have had that same emotion?
No.
See, and that's one of the things that I try to drill home with a lot of people who are streamers, or people who are starting out streaming and want to get into it, is there are games that you stream, for clout, obviously, like if I play like Apex or like PUBG, like I'm going for clips, like I'm going for like multi-feeds and stuff like that, just so I can have a clip highlight for it. But if it's something like a single player experience, I don't normally stream that stuff because the last game I played, Horizon Zero Dawn, that ending got me, emotionally. Near Automata, game that I played with as much as I could have like a like unemployed beard. It was as much facial hair in my life I probably ever had at the time. Like cried, just disgusting looking. And the TV was in my closet. Like it was just horrible, like a horrible setup looking back. But I just was disgusting. But I still got emotional over it. If I was streaming either of those games, and the same experience, like same time, first time, I don't think I would have had I don't think I would have cried at the ending of Nier Automata or the end credits of Nier Automata or Nier Automata. Sorry, I've been saying it wrong my whole life. Nier Automata, but I would probably have been like, "Whoa, guys, that was crazy." Like, because there is something about like when you're alone, you feel a little vulnerable. Whereas in front of a webcam, you're still like, I don't know, like I'm alone, but people are watching. It's like it's a little different.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. There is a balance. But I just thought I'd ask you that question because I kind of feel the same exact way. I don't think I would have ever gotten emotional over a game on stream.
Well, and for me, it's not the inability to show my emotions in front of people, because I have it all. It inevitably it happens in life,
Yeah.
But like for instance, the Last of Us Part Two, knowing the backstory of Joel's character and his love he has for Ellie, even though it's not his daughter, and the effort he has gone through to keep her alive, the sacrifices he has made to keep her alive, and in that game, in his final moments before he's killed in a very brutal way, it's very difficult to stomach that
Mhm.
because you connect with it. Now, the connection part is absolutely not there for me when I'm streaming, because I think most of society wants to make fun of everything and put on a show, but I don't see people getting real and emotional and having people stick around for that,
Mhm.
because at the end of the day, gaming is supposed to be an escape from reality, and a lot of people have a shitty life, and they don't want to come to video games and have, oh well, I'm gonna cry now here too, and they just kind of stay away from it.
Yeah.
But for me, I connect with characters, and the stories that uplift me or devastate me get to me, and I'm not necessarily more vulnerable away from the camera than I am on. It's just that if I'm streaming with people and I know people are watching, I'm not as connected with the game as I would be as if I was at home with my wife. And and that moment with Joel, my wife has got tears and I've got tears because we've both interconnected together with that game and that story. And I played the Last of Us, the first one, before playing the second one back to back. And that whole time, when you have two people, three people total hooked on that story, and you're going through, and then all of a sudden you get that whole part of it just gets crushed, like it doesn't even matter. And the reason why he's killed is so petty and stupid.
Mhm.
And the whole, you just feel all those emotions all at once, and it really connects you. And so yeah, you just can't have that connection when you're online. At least I can't. And
Yeah.
maybe that's a skill I need to learn, I don't know. But
Maybe just not.
you know
Maybe I'm not a very good streamer in that regard. I think what it is that your focus isn't on the game as much. Your focus is on the
yeah,
chat. And so you're not 100% invested in the game. You know,
yeah.
and just like with time management, there's a fine line between being a content creator and being a gamer and enjoying the game. And there's people who can just sit back and watch the game and do whatever I just totally put this mouse over your face, I think, on the cam. I'm not sure if it put it on the OBS. I'm not sure yet. Might have not. I was just swinging my mouse over your face. I'm like, I really hope that doesn't show up in the video. um but anyways, closing thoughts here. I think one of the big things is that you have to be able to balance your time. You have to be able to
Mhm.
balance your entertainment. There's a lot of things that come into balance with video games, and at the end of the day, it's like I don't really think you need to go in and say I need to allot this much time. I need to do this. You know, you game when you got time. You game when you game. You game for whatever reason you want. At the end of the day, it's not. We're not here to tell you how to game or when to game or what you should play. And you're not here to tell us what to do either in that regard, unless you have a request for a game, then we'll play it. That's a little different.
Yeah.
But for the most part, like, one gamer to another, you game when you find the time, but as you get older, the time goes away, and that's something that I thought would be the case, and it's still sticking kind of true, but it's not going away nearly as much as I thought it would. Staying up till 3 a.m. this last week 3 times, like that's really what inspired this episode. Not gonna lie, was staying up till 3 a.m. again. I was like, man, dude, I'm back in college. Like, it's so bad. I'm still in college, but I mean, like, back in like the early freshman days of college. But
yeah. It stays with you,
yeah,
and it makes you feel young again in a way. And for me, I just hope I'm not trying to stay up till 3 a.m. when I'm 40 and like, dude, walking into work like a zombie.
Dude, I'm about to cross the 25 threshold coming up here, so I mean, I hope I'm not doing this when I'm 30. I hope I'm not staying up till 3 a.m. to game.
You'll be able to.
I don't know. I think I could do it though. I mean, I could probably stay up till 2 a.m. every single day and be fine. But that's just, when's that going to catch up to you? Here's the one thing I worry about always. Am I shaving off like hours of my life on the back? It doesn't matter. I'd be like unable to play games because I'd be like decrepit. So it doesn't matter. I may as well enjoy them now. Just saying. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, I think that's all the time we really have for the episode here. We went a little over again 2 weeks in a row. I got sidetracked.
Totally
my fault.
Bad time management. Come on.
Yeah, bad time management. I'm wasting your guys' time. But you guys can play a game right after you guys go to Dis to Digital and leave us a comment so we can read it in our next episode. Or if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us there as well with the hashtag Dis to Digital on our social medias.
And don't forget, guys, on our Discord channel and our Facebook page, you can join us where we talk about things you love and we share some of our greatest gaming experiences.
Yep. Feel free to stop by, guys. Anyways, from all of us here at Dis to Digital, I'm Brett Clark.
And I'm Matt Keaton, and we'll see you guys next time. Take care.